welcome back. Let's talk about the oil and gas sector. I'm bringing our guest, Mr. Victor Udo, is an oil and gas expert, joining us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Udo, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Good morning.
Yeah, I was looking through some of the data available to us. When you look at the numbers from, say, 2021 or more, in terms of pipeline breaches and stealing of crude oil from those pipelines, there was a time we were doing in hundreds of thousands of crude oil per day being stolen from those pipelines. But now we see record low numbers. I think as was reported by the NUPRC, we came to about tens of thousands, maybe about 10 or slightly more than that in barrel per day being lost to breaches. So what I'm saying is there's been some improvement, and this improvement is not circumstantial. I know that the PINL, that's the Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited, played a key role in all of this. But walk us through this success story, and let's see how we can build on it as far as Nigeria's oil and gas sector is concerned, because this is important, because we still struggle to get to our quota as provided by OPEC. Sometimes we get there, we don't get there. So if you analyze our production based on NUPR data, we're talking around 1.3, 1.4, sometimes maximum 1.5 crude oil, not condensate, that will produce every day. And that is off the mark on even our budget assumption.
It will be very interesting if we take a historic look at what has happened. Like you said, there's been significant improvement, but just that I did not totally agree with your last statement that said that we run within 1.5, 1.6. I think in November we run 1.8. And the budget for next year is pegged at 1.84. Some of us are very confident that
Mr. Odo, my apologies.
Niger Delta
my apologies, Mr. Odo, if you can hear me. I was very careful with my words. I said crude oil, not condensate.
Okay.
Crude oil, not condensate. So when you add condensate to it, it now becomes that number.
Okay, thank you. But going straight to the question you raised, what has happened between 2001 and now, is that those responsible for checking and for ensuring that incidences within the pipelines in the Federal Republic of Nigeria are minimized have suddenly got their acts together. When I say suddenly, I mean like from last year, 2023, 2024. We all know that by the laws of Nigeria, the armed forces are supposed to protect critical national infrastructure. But when that was not working enough, the civil defense was drafted in to take this responsibility. And along the line, it was also discovered that the desired results were not coming as expected. And the deployment and engagement of private surveillance company was initiated. I think the progress that has been recorded is as a consequence of non-conventional methods deployed by the companies that were brought on board to assist in making sure that the facility of critical national asset of oil and gas within the Niger Delta are better protected and preserved. Why I say this is because what the private companies have been able to do, they've been able to think outside the box and do what we refer to as a remodeling of the concept of protecting and securing our pipelines within the Niger Delta. How did they do this? They begin to introduce things that are not conventionally deployed for securing pipelines or for protecting critical national assets. Example is they introduce what we refer to as CSR, corporate social responsibilities. They introduce things like community engagement, and then they introduce things like intervention in the day-to-day life of the people within the region. I think that was as a consequence of a deep understanding that the issues that lead to interfering with pipelines in the Niger Delta is anchored on the feeling of exclusion by the people of the Niger Delta, is anchored on the dissatisfaction of the benefit that gets to the people, is anchored on the dissatisfaction of being seen as strangers within the play of managing oil resources in Nigeria, whether you talk about processing or taking of the benefit. So what the companies that were brought in were able to do were to look at what the people think, responded to what the people think by addressing the people's thinking. And in the uniqueness of the people of the Niger Delta, they responded positively by encouraging youth within the community, by encouraging people within their domain to desist from destroying government infrastructure that convey oil and gas. Looking at these issues critically, I will personally think that for every system, and Nigeria inclusive, to address the peculiarity of its situations, its challenges, there is always that need to deploy what we refer to as structurally implementable strategy. And the structurally implementable strategy to guarantee energy security in Nigeria, to guarantee stability of oil and gas production in Nigeria, has eventually become the use of third-party surveillance company and the use of out-of-the-box thinking, a significant differentiation from the conventional means of protecting critical national assets. That being said, the possibility that Nigeria will meet our OPEC quota from next year, from a year going forward, and the possibility that Nigerian oil output will become more predictable and more systematic, reliable, is visible to the extent that these companies that are engaging these people continue in this paradigm, continue in this conversation, continue in the CSR, continue in positive relationship with the people. When that is done consistently, Nigeria will be able to meet her quota. Nigeria will be able to meet the budget prediction of 1.84 barrels per day. And I am confident that we can do 2 million barrels a day. When you look at the actual quantity of capacity we have in terms of the crude oil availability within the Nigerian state especially specifically in the Niger Delta, you will know that we are seriously blessed. But like you said earlier, the issue has always been human interference. Some times ago, it was in hundreds of thousands. We're happy that today, in states like Bayelsa and sometimes in rivers, there are zero infractions on the pipelines of Nigeria. If this continue, which some of us within the Niger Delta as critical stakeholders believe, apart from analyzing oil and gas to look at it from the benefit of the economy, the environmental degradation that oil and gas pollution causes, the tampering with facility you call vandalism or whatsoever, when you vandalize, even if you get caught, prosecuted, you leave a very terrible mark on the environment. Environment becomes bad, farmers cannot farm, fishermen will have to wait till that water gets clean, or eventually after a very long time it pushes away. So when we don't have incidences again, it is beyond just the output of the quantity. It extends to protecting the environment. It extends to guaranteeing that people will have a better aquatic ecological system. It extends to the fact that people can look outside the oil and gas itself and focus in agriculture. It extends to the fact that people can become more predictable in what they can plan.
All right.
When I say predictable in terms of the people, the Niger Delta people will prefer a situation where the discussion within our region will not just be centered around oil and gas and military intervention alone.
We quite get your point on the need for inclusion at all levels in both the management of the infrastructure and in the determination of the control of the resources of oil in the Niger Delta. But let's expand the conversation a bit more, you know, the scope extending now to specifically Ogoniland. You have said that the issues of oil spillage and degradation cannot be unconnected with, the lack of inclusion, and by extension you're touching on the concern about, more often than not, sabotage by elements within the community. But environmentalists, speaking specifically about Ogoniland, are talking about the need for the decommissioning of some of the oil wellheads, because some have begun to, what's the environmental word now, corrode as a result of neglect over the years. How valid is that point, and does it trump sabotage? Can you rule out sabotage from some of the oil spills that we have seen in Ogoniland in recent times that has even necessitated the visit of the NSA?
The history of the Ogoni struggle and the history of oil pollution in the Niger Delta, and then the history of the advocacy for justice for Ogoni people are tripartite in nature. With the recent visit of the NSA, I think it's more of a follow-up to the decisions of the president in recent time. One, let me take the issues in bits. The first one is that some of the heads of the well heads have begun to erode, corrode, and all these things. Does it necessarily have relationship with human interference? In response to that, I want to make it explicitly clear that it is not all the oil incidences that are human related. There is tear and wear. There is natural ecological reality, and then sometimes when you talk of the onshore, you talk about the push and pull of the ocean wave that can tamper with this facility. Specifically, the issues in Ogoni, yes, there were instances in the years past that it was human interference. And then the unfortunate incident we saw around Ogoniland that even led to the issues of political interference in Rivers State, which was believed to confirmed to be human interference. But in general, the Ogoni issue is greatly addressed now. What we will continue to say is that the expansion of the involvement of the Ogoni natives, the Ogoni people, in the discussion and approach to solving the Ogoni environmental reality should be at topmost priority.
And Ms. Odo,
the visit of the NSA is very beautiful.
Pardon me,
the intervention of security personnel is very beautiful.
Right.
But the Ogoni people themselves don't want to live in a very bad environment.
And to
they
be
are
fair,
conscious of this
Odo,
fact. And we will submit, therefore, that it will be in the interest of Nigeria and the Ogoni people that the approach
Odo,
of engaging the people.
Pardon me, I just want to
barely hear you.
And say that, in fact, we are going to explore this conversation with our next guest. But it's a very important one, and I'm glad that you were able to speak to it. But speaking to the CSR bit of ensuring energy safety and security in Nigeria, which PINL is exploring, I find that quite interesting, because we've always known of the kinetic approach. We've tried different things, but it looks like this CSR approach is working. So maybe we'll just wind down by speaking to some of the specifics being done and then the results you're getting, so we can also replicate it in other parts. So is it in terms of schools, hospitals, scholarships, and the rest? So let's just identify them specifically so people have a better sense of what is being done.
Okay, specifically, there are interventions in the health facilities within the eastern corridor of the Niger Delta. There are interventions of scholarship for students within the Niger Delta. There are interventions for medical outreach. People who had medical issues that require consultancy and sometimes surgeries are attended to. And very importantly, there is meeting the needs of the community as they present it. Some communities have asked for improved transportation within their area. Some communities have requested for, what do we call it, community halls. Some communities had requested for roads. Some communities have requested for women empowerment. So these things are what constitute the CSR. When you go out of the use of the force of coercion, becomes unconventional method, then when you specifically address the needs of the people in a community-centric approach of programs, project that benefits the people. Recently, in this December, we saw a large-scale give out to about 216 communities within the eastern corridor of the Niger Delta. Food items, material support, and some instances cash. This kind of thing, though not conventional in the protection of critical national oil and gas, but has become efficient and effective because it gives the people a sense of belonging and it gives the people a sense of being carried along. Then lastly, in times like this where there is festivity and you come to the people not with conferences, you come to the people not with boots on ground, you come to the people not with the use of coercion, and you come to them and try to make their celebrations a little bit better than they had planned it originally. It gives the people a sense of belonging. It gives them, it wakens their consciousness that they have been remembered. It wakens their confidence that partnering with these people makes it better for us to protect our critical national asset.
Yes. My apology, we're totally out of time, but we must commend PINL, Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited, because if you look at the numbers and the contribution they've made and all this unconventional method by literally making community-owned infrastructure by the way they've carried out these activities, I think it's commendable. So we must thank them and ensure that this is, as Kayode will say, replicated across board, because we need those numbers to keep rising in terms of production, and we need the breaches to keep coming down to zero. Victor Udo is the gas and energy expert joining us from our Abuja studios. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Thank you.